You know, it's funny how life can flip on you in a heartbeat one minute. You're a nobody, just hustling tables at a place you don't even feel like you belong. And the next, you're standing at the center of the kind of story people spend their whole lives trying to avoid, or maybe deep down, dreaming about. That was me, Lucy Rivers, just another shy waitress in a red apron at Salvatore, this fancy Italian joint where the napkins were thicker than my paycheck and the guests could buy my whole week's groceries with a single bottle of wine. You know what I mean? Salvatore wasn't just some ritzy spot on the corner. It was where New York's invisible lines met and shook hands, where power came to eat in peace, under crystal chandeliers that made everybody look just a little richer, a little untouchable. So when the word slipped out Moretti's coming, and not just him, but his whole circle, I felt my stomach knot up. You didn't need to follow the news to know Alexander Moretti's name. Heir to the family that ran half the city's secrets, a guy whose reputation made people step off the curb just to avoid crossing his shadow. So, yeah, when Sandra, our head waitress, shot me a look and hissed, "Table Savin be perfect," it didn't matter that my hand was shaking. You get used to being invisible in a place like Salvatore. That night, I couldn't be. I remember walking up to that table, and there he was, Alexander slick-back hair, gold chain peeking from under his shirt, this tattoo vanishing under his sleeve, a smile that didn't really reach his eyes. He didn't need to bark orders. People just moved for him. His guys were all expensive suits and whispers, but he sat at the head of the table like he'd built the place with his bare hands. And I was just trying to keep my tray from rattling. Then, right behind me, I catch this mess at the next table, some American exec sweating bullets because his translator ditched, and now his whole deal with these Italian clients is tanking. I don't know what came over me, maybe just a rush of pity or that stupid urge to fix things, but I just stepped in and started translating. Fluent Italian, thanks to my grandma, God rest her soul. For a second, everyone just stared, then the whole place kind of leaned in. That's when Moretti made his move. I swear, his voice rolled out across the dining room, low and dangerous. 50 grand to anyone who can translate what I'm about to say. You could hear the forks drop. Most people, they looked away, but I just couldn't. I needed that money. Mom's medical bills were stacked so high, and in that moment, it was like I was finally being seen for something besides my uniform. So I took a breath and said, "I'll do it." He looked at me like he was trying to decide if I was brave or just reckless. In Italian, he asked me quiet, just for me, "What do you see when you look at a man like me?" The monster everyone fears, or the man no one knows. It was a test, and we both knew it. I translated, honest as I could, and when he asked for my own answer, I just told him the truth I didn't see either. Not yet. And you know what? The scariest guy in the room laughed a real laugh. Not the kind that chills your blood, but something real, warm, like he'd been waiting to find out if he could still feel it. "The 50 grand is yours," he said. "Tomorrow." And I swear, for a second, I was weightless. That could have been the end. Take the money, pay the bills, move on. But in my world, nothing's ever that simple. When closing time came, Sandra pressed a heavy black card into my palm, just a phone number in gold, her eyes wide with worry. "He left this for you," she whispered. "You don't understand, Lucy. He's dangerous. You don't want to get tangled up with men like that." But I just smiled, tried to play it cool, even though I could feel that card burning a hole through my pocket the whole walk home. 2 days later, I get home, and there's an envelope black, thick, expensive, just sitting on my doormat. Inside is a check for exactly $50,000, and a note in handwriting so neat it had to be from a man who plans everything. A dead honored is a reputation maintained. The translation was worth every penny. I should have felt relieved, right? Instead, I started wondering how he even found my address, and that chill of fear mixed with something else, curiosity, maybe settled into my bones. Let me back up a sec. I never expected to see him again. But then came the flowers, white lilies. My favor delivered to Salvatore with another note. "Thank you for your assistance." Sandra saw them and just about lost her mind. "Lucy, you don't just walk away from the Morettis." And maybe she was right, because that night, lying awake, I finally started searching Alexander Moretti online. What I found was half legend, half myth, philanthropist, CEO, And then all the rumors, disappearances, deals, old alliances, blood spilled, and debts collected. That's when Vito, his driver, showed up outside my apartment at midnight, all polite menace and, "Mr. Moretti requests your presence." And let me tell you, there's a certain kind of fear that's ice cold, keeps you moving even when every cell is screaming to run. I went because what choice did I have? His penthouse was straight out of movie city lights stretching to forever. Windows so big you could fall right through them. Alexander, sleeves rolled, tattoos coiling up his arms, poured himself a drink and started talking not about me, but about my grandmother, Sophia Rossi. Turns out, my grandma wasn't just a seamstress from Florence. She was the last survivor of a family that once ran the north side of the city until massacre wiped them out, a massacre she escaped by faking her own death and running to America. And now, according to him, my existence complicated old alliances, legacy claims, blood debts. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. But mostly, I want to know what the hell any of this had to do with me. "You're part of this history whether you want it or not," he said, eyes softening for the first time. It was a lot too much, honestly. But even as I tried to protest, the logic was airtight. If the old families knew a Rossi was alive, I was in danger. "Let me help you," he said, and for the first time in my life, I thought maybe I needed it. But this is where the story takes a turn. Because when we searched my mother's attic, looking for the truth, I found a journal, a locket, and documents proving everything Alexander had said. My grandmother really had been a Rossi, and she'd hidden her past to protect us. That's when Alexander's world crashed into mine for Reala third family. The Bianca, orchestrators of the original hit, had returned to New York. Marco Bianca, their new heir, wanted me as leverage or worse. So I went with Alexander. I let him move me upstate to a house hidden in the woods, where he told me stories about his own family, about oaths and betrayals, about how the Morettis had sworn generations ago to protect the last Rossi if it ever came to it. The tension between us, God, it built slow and hot, turning from obligation into something more dangerous than any threat outside those glass walls. Then the attacks started. Bianca's men came for me, for him, for all of us. Violence that made the papers call it a mob war. But in truth, it was about legacy, old wounds, ancient promises. In the middle of all this, Alexander and I found something worth fighting for each other. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but it's true. Every moment we had alone felt like we were rewriting the rules. There was a council meeting 5 families, all the old bloodlines in one room, supposed to keep the peace. But betrayal is a family business, and history repeated itself. An ambush, a federal raid, chaos in Little Italy. With help from Francesca, Alexander's mafia legend herself, what got out, while Alexander played his cards perfectly, using the chaos to bring down Bianca's whole operation and finally clear the Rossi name. 6 months later, everything's changed. I'm no longer the girl in the red apron, hiding behind trays and secrets. I stand beside Alexander, now officially his fiancée, introduced to New York society as the last heir of the Rossi family. The old codes are honored, but we're rewriting what it means to belong. My mother's accepted it. Francesca's become a second mother. And even the 5 families have adjusted because, as Alexander likes to joke, sometimes fate drops a new piece onto the board and everyone has to play along. The night of our engagement party, as snow dusted the city outside our penthouse, Alexander took my hands and said, "When I first met you, I asked if you saw the monster or the man. I told him the truth. I see both, and neither scares me anymore because we're all made of the stories we survive. So here's the thing, maybe I was never meant to be just a waitress, or just a Rossi, or just the girl who survived the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe I was meant to be all of it, someone who could see through the masks, who could love the man and face the monster, who could take the legacy and use it to build something new." Alexander and we still figuring it out, still navigating a world that doesn't always make room for happy endings, but we're doing it on our own terms. And maybe that's the real twist. Not that the shy waitress survived the mafia, or that the feared boss found someone who could make him laugh, but that together we prove something old can become something better, something more. A kingdom built from shadows and trust. A new legacy that asks the world to see us in it just for our names, but for what we choose. But hey, that's just my story. Was I right to take that risk, to trust a man everyone else feared, to claim a legacy that almost destroyed my family? Or should I have run and never looked back? You tell me, drop your thoughts below. Is blood thicker than water? Or can we really choose who we become? Justice, power, loyalty, where do you draw the line? Let me know, because stories like these, they're only worth telling if someone's listening.